€40 million spent in the Championship transfer market so far, and some Championship clubs are absolutely cooking going into next season. We're going to be looking at the business of Championship clubs and ranking every single Championship club's business so far in the transfer window and giving my thoughts and opinions on all of the moves, the incomings and outgoings that have taken place so far for every single Championship club. If you're a fan of Championship content, then this is the place to be. Hit that subscribe button down below. It takes 1 second to hit that subscribe button, and if you want Championship content throughout the whole of the season in your feed, then do drop me a subscription. It'd be very greatly appreciated. And do drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. Right then, so we're going to start off by going through every single club individually. We're going to start off with Birmingham City, who have been pretty active in the transfer market so far, I think it is fair to say. They brought in Phil Newman very, very early on a free transfer from Hanover, very highly rated over in Germany. They've also brought in Tommy Doyle very recently as well, literally yesterday. Tommy Doyle on loan from Wolves with the option to buy, I believe, as well. And they also brought in James Beadle as well. So they've brought in some interesting faces. I think Tommy Doyle, I mean, he's got Premier League experience. He played over 20 matches last season for Wolves in the Premier League. He was a part of the Sheffield United team that got promoted. This guy at Championship level is going to be a top central midfielder. And Birmingham's arguably their strongest position already is in the middle of the park, and now they've just added Tommy Doyle to it. So anybody that thinks Birmingham are going to struggle this season, which isn't many people, I think they need to get their head checked, because I think that midfield is genuinely going to be a top Championship midfield, and adding Tommy Doyle to it, it's unfair. It's unfair, let's be real. Genuinely one of the signings of the window so far. I spoke about James Beadle yesterday. People saying he might not start. We'll have to wait and see. I just feel like if he's coming on loan, I feel like surely he's got to end up getting minutes. I just don't see him Brighton loaning him to Birmingham without him playing at all. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. I'm not a big fan of James Beadle personally, but Phil Newman, from what I've seen, looks to be a very good signing. And 27 years old, he's going to go straight into that Birmingham defence, and I'd imagine he will do very, very well there. On to Blackburn Rovers, where it's pretty difficult to discuss their incomings because they have brought in a player from the Portuguese league called Tavares for €2 million. They're already very strong in the centre of midfield, by the way. You know, they got Tronstad, and they also have Travis as well. Now, I don't know whether Travis will leave or not. There's been rumours of him potentially going, but you'd imagine this guy will get quite a few minutes because the fact that Blackburn has spent €2 million, and he's 23 years old. And they've also brought in a player called Dion Deneve as well. Again, I don't know. We'll wait and see. In terms of outgoings though for Blackburn, they have obviously lost a few players. More going in the direction of Derby County, which we'll have to discuss when we get to the Derby County section of the video. Now, Bristol City have been interesting in the transfer market. They've brought in Joe Lumley, who he cannot play Championship football. I'm sorry, it just can't happen ever again. But he's going to be the backup keeper. Obviously, O'Leary number one. But if Lumley comes into that side, God knows. Just pray for Bristol City if that's the case. But they've also brought in Emil Rees on a free transfer from Preston, which, to be fair, Emil Rees has put up some decent numbers in the Championship. He's had a season where he scored almost, I think he's almost scored 20 goals in a season. He scored 12 goals last season. He had a couple of seasons where he's had kind of injuries and that, which have hampered his kind of progress at Preston. But he's done pretty decent overall. I'd say he's a decent Championship striker. So on a free transfer, you can't really say no. You wouldn't really say it's an awful transfer in the slightest. They did let go of Naki Wells, so I'd imagine that's kind of like the replacement in terms of, obviously, they're both playing up front, and Naki Wells went one way. Emil Rees coming the other way. Obviously, 27 years old, still got plenty of years ahead of him. I don't mind that for striker. I don't mind that signing at all from Bristol City. They also brought in Adam Randall from Plymouth as well. Of course, he got relegated there last season. He's a decent Championship midfielder. He's all right. Again, it's not exactly some kind of statement signing where you think that's what's going to force Bristol City into the playoffs again. But he's a solid operator at Championship level. He's decent enough. Can't complain too much. And then in terms of Charlton, of course, they're going to need to be very busy in the transfer market, obviously newly promoted side from League One. And they have brought in a few players to start off the window. They brought in Sonny Carey from Blackpool, who had a very good season over in League One. So they'll be hoping he can make that step up to the Championship. And the other two transfers I actually really like. I think Thomas Kaminski, I spoke about him in detail yesterday if you want to check that out. I think that's a very good signing for Charlton. Obviously, got Premier League experience and done very well in the Championship. Obviously struggled a little bit at Luton at times last season. But I think Charlton will be more solid than what Luton were defensively, in my opinion. I think Charlton won't be that bad defensively, considering they'll probably be down towards the bottom of the table. But I think they'll more struggle for goals in terms of putting the ball into the back of the net than keeping the ball out of the back of the net. I think Thomas Kaminski is a great addition into that Charlton side. They've also brought in, which I think is a really interesting signing, Alafi from Stockport County, who looks to be an absolute handful. In the games that I watched of him last season at Stockport, really, really impressed me. So I think he's going to be a handful in the Championship. I think he's going to give Championship defenders some very difficult games, physical and very fast as well. Finishing a little bit questionable, but looks to be an absolute handful. As I say, 25 years old, can hopefully develop a little bit more at Charlton. As I say, they're going to need a player like that in the Championship that's going to be able to kind of make things out of nothing, because it's going to be hard for Charlton in the Championship, of course, making that step up. And I think Alafi could be a very good addition to that Charlton side. In terms of outgoings, they did lose Thierry Small to Preston, who obviously did pretty well for Charlton last season, a young talent which can definitely develop. It's a shame that they ended up losing him on a free transfer. Right, Coventry City. They have brought in a guy called Brow. Never heard of him, not going to lie. Got him in a free transfer from Granada. But then they have brought in, and my opinion is one of, definitely for me, in the top 5 signings of the window, Kane Kesler-Hayden for £4 million, like £3 million, £3.7 million. It's a fantastic piece of business, in my opinion. 22 years old. You'd imagine Van Ewijk will be going the other way, and he'll be going maybe to the Premier League or maybe somewhere abroad, I'm not so sure. You'd imagine Van Ewijk will probably be on his way. But in terms of a replacement, you can't really get to many better. I think Kane Kesler-Hayden, in terms of right-backs, I'd say he was arguably top 3, definitely top 5. I'd say Trey Hume and Bogle were ahead. Then there's probably Kesler-Hayden, Jimmy Dunn, them kind of players. I think Kesler-Hayden probably 3rd or 4th best right back in the division in terms of last season. Played a few seasons at Championship level now, and as I say, a really nice fee for Coventry, and a player there you could potentially look maybe to sell on in a couple of years' time if Coventry don't get promoted to the Premier League. And he's a player that's got Premier League potential, and at that kind of price, I think it's an excellent bit of business from Coventry right there. Hopefully that is the start to the window that they mean to go so far, strengthening that kind of fullback department. We'll see what else they do as the window goes on. Derby County, they announced, 3 signings in one day? Was it yesterday or was it the day before? It might have been yesterday. They announced 3 signings in one day. Richard O'Donnell, never going to play. 3rd choice goalie, right? He's just irrelevant, but 36 years. I mean, there was one thing to look at with Derby County's transfers. Even on the players they released, they're all very old. They do have a very experienced side, Derby County, and so far every single signing that Eustace has made has been experienced. But Derby needed to get bodies into the set to bolster that squad, because they've lost a lot of players on free transfers, as well as the squad just needed bolstering in general. So obviously got a 3rd choice keeper. They brought in Danny Bat from Blackburn, who played the majority of the season and was very impressive. Now he's 34 years old, pushing 35, but a very good centre-back at Championship level. He's proved that for numerous years. And as I say, he was genuinely very good for Blackburn, in a side that almost got the playoffs last season. And they got Andreas Weimann, who was a bit hit or miss for Blackburn. But, he's a very good player that knows the Championship inside out. 33 years old, against an experienced player. He's probably not going to be starting week in, week out. He might do. Obviously, John Eustace likes him as well. Obviously, John Eustace used to manage Blackburn, knows both of these two players. So I think under John Eustace, he's a safe transfer. He knows the Championship very well, and he's a decent operator at Championship level. Of course, he is 33, but I still think that is a decent move for Derby County. And a free transfer, can't really go too wrong. You can't really complain too much. And then the biggest signing for Derby, or the biggest name, I mean, they're all pretty big names. I mean, 3 of them are pretty big names, but Carlton Morris is the real statement signing out of the lot. Bringing him in from Luton, of course, got relegated, but the geezer literally scored like double-figure Premier League goals a couple of years ago. And you think he's under a good manager, under John Eustace, who'll probably be playing week in, week out, and John Eustace will be able to get the best out of Carlton Morris, in my opinion. I think it's a really exciting signing for Derby County, and a striker that knows the division, has scored goals in the division, above, experienced. I think it's a decent signing for Derby County. I wouldn't say it's the signing of the summer or anything, but I do think it's right up there in terms of top signings in the division so far. And Derby have let go of a lot of players on kind of free transfers, but they needed to let go of some of the vast majority of these players. Let's be real. I think every single one near enough needed to get released. So there is a problem there that Nat Phillips has gone. By the way, that's the one that they really are missing, who's, of course, gone to West Brom, which we'll discuss a bit later in the video. Right, Hull City. They have brought in Gustavo Porter from Bayer Leverkusen. He's got a good reputation, this guy. A lot of people have been talking him up. Obviously, I've never watched the geezer, but you never know. Coming in from Bayer Leverkusen, obviously a top club, We'll see how he gets on. And then they've also brought in this geezer as well, but I can't really comment too much on those because I don't really know them too well. Both very young players that obviously Hull City will be looking to develop. They have brought in Semi Ajayi, which I do think is a decent bit of business. Problem is his injury record isn't ideal at all, but he's a player that's played at numerous years at Championship level and is a very good operator at Championship level. 31 years old, still got a few more years left. On a free transfer, you can't complain. It's just whether they can keep him fit for that whole time as well. And then they have let go of a few players, Hull City. Nothing too alarming. Louis Barry, they might be bringing back, which is interesting. I mean, I think the deal may have broke down, but you never know. They might go back in for Louis Barry. Could be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Ipswich Town haven't brought in anybody yet. We'll see what they do. I'm sure they'll be busy in the transfer market as it gets later. And they've only just come back into pre-season as well, literally today. At the time of recording this video, they have lost a few players. They lost Liam Delap. We expected that, gone to Chelsea for £30 million. We knew that was going to happen. We knew with that relegation release clause, Liam Delap was always going to be leaving Ipswich. And they also lost Marcus Harness, who was out on loan at Derby last season. But Cameron Burgess is... he was for me, he's still probably Ipswich's best defender after Dara O'Shea. I'd say he would be in that Ipswich starting 11 at the start of the season if he stayed. But he's gone to Swansea, a top signing for Swansea. We'll discuss that a bit more from a Swansea perspective. But from Ipswich, kind of surprised he's gone, to be honest. Antoine Zabi's gone as well, and Luongo as well, with a few loan players going back. We'll see if they bring maybe Kayuse back. They've lost, obviously, a lot of talent from their kind of loans and frees that have gone, but they're a relegated Premier League team. It was always going to happen. Right, Leicester City haven't brought in anybody yet. We don't know what's going to go on with them in the transfer window. They've let go of a few on a free. Obviously, Buonanotte was really good or decent for Leicester at the start of the season. He's gone back. And as well as that, Vardy, of course, has gone being the main one. Obviously, been there for so many years and literally is just Mr. Leicester. And Leicester will definitely miss him, and it will definitely be different for them to not have Vardy around. They also lost Everson and Danny Ward as well, which isn't too surprising. So no incomings yet, and I don't even know what to say with Leicester because it's going to be interesting with Leicester, obviously with that potential points deduction as well. Now, Middlesbrough haven't brought in anybody yet. They have let go of a couple of players. Dijksteel's been there for a few years, who's gone, and Josh Coburn as well, who's obviously out on loan at Millwall. And they've got a good fee for Josh Coburn. Obviously, he's a player there's definitely a player in there, but he's yet to really show it on a proper, consistent level. So, interesting signing for Millwall, but Middlesbrough, I think they'll take that kind of fee. And we're on to Millwall next, so we have got Josh Coburn, who, of course, as I say, was on loan there last season. A player that's got a good potential. We'll see how he gets on. Obviously, Millwall have Ivanovic as well up top, who's obviously a very, very good striker. So we'll see how Coburn gets on. I think it's a lot of money. I do think it's a lot of money on that transfer. And in terms of outgoings, they've lost George Saville. They lost Zian Fleming, who was, of course, on loan at Burnley last season. George Honeyman as well, but nothing too major in terms of outgoings. Norwich City have brought in a few players so far this window from overseas. They brought in Medic and they brought in Kovacic. I don't know if I said that wrong, right? But goalkeeper, you'd imagine he's going to be starting because Angus Gunn, obviously, he's been released, so he will be the starting goalkeeper. We'll see how he gets on. A centre-back from Ajax, who's 26 years old. Harry Darling on a free transfer, which I think is a top signing. That is up there for me with one of the signings of the window. Harry Darling, we saw at Swansea last season, was top centre-back. And I think it's a great move for Norwich, really. And a free transfer, 25 years old, a good age. As I say, one of the signings of the window right there. Oxford, now, they brought in this geezer quite controversially. Brian de Kirschmeiker. Sorry if I said that wrong, but he looks good. On the clips I've seen him, he looks like a good player. He's captain of his club over in Holland. They signed him for like £4 million, something around that kind of mark, which, that's a big fee right there that Oxford have paid for a player, which is, it really does show the kind of intent that they're showing in the Championship, that they're not here to mess about. People were kind of thinking that Oxford might have a decent season this season, so, the bookies have got them predicted right down at the bottom. So, making a signing like Brian de Kirschmeiker is definitely a statement from Oxford, in my opinion. 25 years old, central midfielder, did very well over in Holland by all accounts, so they'll hope he can translate that over to English football. So, as they want to watch right there. Portsmouth, what a surprise. They brought in a geezer from Australia. That's just typical Portsmouth. By the way, QPR do it as well. We love a signing from Australia. I don't know how this guy's going to get on, but it's a typical Portsmouth signing. Preston have been very, very busy in the transfer market so far. Thierry Small, we discussed before, brought in a free transfer. Kind of has got a lot to iron out in his game. I think his end product definitely lacks, but he's still only 20 years old as a player. It's got a lot of pace that Preston have been lacking in their side. I think it's a decent addition. I think that is there. As I say, is he going to get the goal contributions and the kind of output and the end product that we want? Maybe not. But I think it's a good signing with good potential and a free transfer. Good piece of business. Paul Valentin, not the biggest fan. As long as he's a backup, it's alright. If he's starting, I'm a bit concerned. Everson did well a few years ago at Preston. Thompson, he's decent. He's just a decent championship player. We'll see if he's starting week in, week out or not. Dan Jebison, I did a video on TikTok of him and got absolutely... I mean, it was very controversial, that video. It got a lot of reception from different kind of ends of the spectrum. I said it was one of the worst signings. If you watched him at Watford last season, he was absolutely woeful. Couldn't hit a barn door and was very ineffective. So the jury's definitely out, and he's got a lot to prove. Like a lot to prove, Dan Jebison has this season at Preston. So we'll see how many kind of minutes he gets. Is he going to be starting there? I'm not so sure. I don't think he will be. So not overly keen on that as of right now. And of course, they let go of a lot of players Preston did as well on free transfers. Of course, Emil Rees, Ryan Ledson, Freddie Woodman, Patrick Bauer as well. Players that have been around for a few years and played quite a number of games for Preston. As well as that, of course, they have Magoma as well, who's gone back. And as well that King Kessler Hayden as well, of course, was definitely Preston's player of the season. So, they've got a lot to replace. They've brought in a few players. We'll see how that gets on for Preston. QPR. My club QPR, I've been very impressed with the business we've done so far. I was looking nervous going into the season. They were made some signings which are quite exciting. You look at the ages of the players and you look at the potential of some of the players and how well they've done it in the kind of league below in terms of Mbengi and Poku on free transfers. Looked to be good. Well, Poku was actually 900,000 in compensation. I'm not sure. Maybe there's some compensation for the Mbengi one as well. We've got Adamson, who's coming from the Australian league. We, like Portsmouth, love to buy from the Australian league. Probably going to be back to Jimmy Dunn. And then you got Mbengi, who did very, very well by all accounts at Reading last season. Very solid centre back by the looks of him, and looks to be an absolute beast. Very quick as well. So he will be an interesting sign. I think he'd probably come in as a starter, to be honest. And Poku as well, of course, one of the kind of more talked about transfers of the window so far. I think it could be a very, very good signing. 20 goal contributions in 27 games for Peterborough last season, and making that step up to the Championship. Hopefully he can make the step up very well. And a lot of people asking the question, like, why has he gone to QPR? Because he had so many clubs interested. He had Birmingham, he had Rangers as well, the most notable clubs that were in for him the most. He's ended up choosing QPR. I think the manager's played a big part in that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. I think he could be a real good signing. It could be one of the signings of the window so far. In terms of outgoings, Kenneth Powell on a free transfer. I think his time was kind of up at QPR. Kind of just petered out in the end. Lucas Anderson as well. I think it was time for these players to go. Obviously, the loans going back. Ronnie Edwards is frustrating, and Koki Sato as well. But overall, I'm really happy with the business that we have done so far. So Sheffield United decided to bring a player over from the Bulgarian league. I think it was one of them data signings. That's all they've done so far. Brian Bruce has been released as well, which, I mean, they signed him for God knows how much. Has he actually been released? I swear I would have seen that. Has he officially been released? Or is he just out of contract? I don't know. Let me know. Sheffield Wednesday. No new arrivals. That doesn't surprise me. And in terms of free agents, look at all them players that have gone. Obviously, Barry Bannon's out of contract as well, so we're not sure what's going to happen with him. A few other ones as well. But all these players here released, and it's just a nightmare at Sheffield Wednesday. And are they even going to have a squad for next season? Right, Southampton. They've brought in one player so far, Joshua Kwasi, who's absolutely rapid. He recorded the highest speed in the second tier of the Bundesliga in terms of sprinting. So he's going to be an interesting player. 20 years old. Don't know if he'll come straight in and start, but I think he's got a lot of potential from what I've seen of him. And as I say, 20 years old, a lot of potential to grow. They also just sold Suleiman worth 17 million euros as well. And they've got some decent fees. Southampton always sell pretty well with their players. Stoke City, they brought in Sorba Thomas, which I think is a real decent bit of business. Very good quality on set pieces. So I think he's going to be a really good addition to that Stoke side. I would be very happy if I was a Stoke fan seeing Sorba Thomas coming in from Huddersfield. And that's a decent transfer right there. And then on to Swansea City, who have actually been pretty busy in the transfer market, I think it's fair to say. But in this, I think that's actually the most expensive transfer of the window. Anusa, who looks to be a real tricky player, coming in from the Swedish league. Not seen a whole great deal. I've only seen kind of clips of him. he's gonna be a starter, right? They're paying that kind of money for him. It's a big fee for Swansea to be putting out for him. So hopefully he can hit the ground running over there at Swansea. And I do like the signing of Cameron Burgess as well. Of course, I discussed that earlier, Ipswich letting him go. I think that's a bit of a mistake from Ipswich. They could have maybe done with the Cameron Burgess in the squad. But Swansea City, obviously, they lost Harry Darling. In comes the Cameron Burgess. Great bit of business for Swansea bringing in him. Obviously, it's a shame they let go. Well, Harry Darling ended up leaving. It's a shame for that. But I think Burgess is a good signing. Obviously, Burgess, 29 years old, got a few more years, definitely got numerous years left at Championship level, on a free transfer, good bit of business. Ricardo Santos, I'm not so sure. He's going to be a backup, surely, right? But I'm not overly keen on that transfer. I think he struggled at Bolton last season, so it's a free transfer at the end of the day, and he probably won't be starting. Now we're on to Watford, where they've been pretty busy as well, to be fair, especially early on, bringing in Kiprianu from Peterborough on a free transfer. Very good midfielder. Obviously making the step up to the Championship. We'll see if he can kind of make that step up. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll do a good job at Watford. Solid transfer and a free transfer. Mark Boller as well, who also he's got Championship experience himself, playing for Middlesbrough in the past. And decent left back. Obviously he's gone off to whatever country, gone to Turkey, might have gone to another country, so I think he had another spell somewhere else. I think it's a decent transfer and a free transfer. I think he'll be solid enough. And Baxter as well on a free transfer. And then West Brom have brought in Nat Phillips, which I think he's 28 years old. They've spent a decent fee on him, £3 million. I think he's a good Championship centre-back. I think he's proved that at Derby last season. Was very solid towards the back end of the season. Under John Eustace, was very, very good. Obviously, it's £3 million on a player that's kind of, he's 28 years old. Are you really going to be able to get that kind of money back for him? I'm not so sure. But solid Championship defender. As I say, I'm not too sure on the fee for that. I think Liverpool have got a decent deal out of that, considering he had 1 year left in his contract. Also let go of a few players as well, by the way. Grady Diangana will be interesting to see where he ends up next, and John Swift as well. Of course, and Ajayi as well. Of course, Diangana and Ajayi have been there for years on years at West Brom. Right, Wrexham, where they've brought in a couple of players so far. They've not been quite as busy as what I thought they would have been in terms of incomings. I thought they would have maybe really made statements. They haven't really made too many statements. Ryan Hardy's a decent signing. 825k it says there, which is a decent fee. 28 years old. Put double-figure goals up for Plymouth, I think, the last 2 seasons in the Championship. And, he's got that Championship experience. He knows the division. A decent player at Championship level. It's not like a statement signing where you think they're going to be pushing for promotion with him. But good striker who can definitely chip in with quite a few goals, in my opinion, for Wrexham over the course of the season. We spoke about Danny Ward in detail yesterday, if you want to go check that video out, where I'm just not too big of a fan. I think he'll be backup keeper, to be honest. I think they're going to be paying a decent wage for him, right, as well. So not too sure on that signing personally. But, and then Wrexham did let go of a few players. They let go of Paul Mullin on loan, which is a shame that the guy never kicked a ball in the Championship. Stephen Fletcher went as well. But probably the right decisions on what they've done with their transfer. So let me know what you think. Who do you think is winning the transfer window so far? If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel. It would be very greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second. If you watch this point, you may as well hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.